Greetings, travel enthusiasts, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the TravelPreneur podcast. I'm your host, Mega McSwain. Today, we are joined with a distinguished guest, Kurt Krause, the president and CEO of Visit Norfolk. Welcome, Kurt. How are you today?
Doing very well, thank you. It's a pleasure and a treat, and I'm honored to be with you today.
Well, thank you. So let's get into Visit Norfolk and kind of your involvement in it. You've played a pivotal role in promoting Norfolk, Virginia as a top U.S. destination. What unique experiences and amenities does Norfolk offer, and how does Visit Norfolk communicate this to residents and visitors?
It's a great question. And I'd like to preface it just a bit by saying, and I know you've been on our website, that one of the first screens that you see is, what's your purpose for coming to our city? And everybody's different. So to say that the Chrysler Museum and the Chrysler Glass Studio, where you can actually go in and spin glass, they'll teach you how to do that, is an extraordinary experience. But if you're not into museums, maybe a bike ride on the Elizabeth River Trail would be more suitable for what you want to do. But our museums are great. Our music is great. Our food is great. So it's hard to say what's appealing to some and not to others.
Right.
Although music and culinary experiences are always at the top of the list, but every city could have that. So how does that differentiate us? We are only 250,000 people, and we have 600 restaurants, and 2/3 of those are chef owned. So it's not the big boxes. It's more cultural and more experiential to that community. And I know that one of your other questions is, what have we done over certain timeframes? And we have a campaign called City with Bite. We're now in our third season, and it's highlighting those chef-owned restaurants. It could be a sandwich shop, or it could be a white tablecloth restaurant. But these 4 or 5 minute little vignettes, and we produce them as if it was Netflix. So you can binge on all of them. But there are 8 restaurants a year that we highlight, and we talk to the restaurant chef owner. Typically, they pull somebody from one of their best customers in to talk about their experiences, and it really goes over extremely well. So,
are these highlighted on social media or on TV?
No, our budget is not as big as Dallas's, unfortunately, or some of the other bigger cities. We are all social. We're all digital.
Okay.
So we've had some really good success with that. We can get into those numbers if you wish later. But the Botanical Gardens, it was created in 1935 to compete with Charleston's azalea festivals. So our roses and our azaleas are going back almost 100 years in this wonderful botanical gardens. And they've just broken ground for the Botanical Gardens of the future. And what does that look like? And what is the interaction with the guests that come in? They have about 400, 500 guests, visitors every year that come in. So while that's not important for some, it is important to a lot of people. And their Christmas journey through the Botanical Gardens, whether you walk it the first week or it's a drive-through after that, is spectacular. And with the Christmas music or the holiday music, it's not necessarily Christmas, it's holiday focused. And it's absolutely wonderful. The breweries is another one that doesn't meet everybody's. And we have 12 breweries in town that you could go on a brewery crawl, if you will. And there are touring companies that will take you on all of those. So if I had to pick 5, I would probably go with our museums. I would go with the music. The Church Street Jazz Festival is fabulous if you're a smooth jazz aficionado. But then we have some of our older theaters that have been turned into music venues. So if you're a hard rocker or if you're a folk music person, your artist would be coming through there as well. So small venues. And if you're a baseball fan, our baseball team, which is the AAA team to the Orioles, won the championship. So of all the AAA teams throughout the country, our team is champions. And they have 75 games, I think, 435,000 visitors that have come through. We all agree that most of it, 80% of it is local, but 20% coming from out of town is an economic impact.
Sure. Well, you mentioned everyone's different. People have different interests, and Visit Norfolk. Now I'm so cautious about how I'm going to say it. Norfolk. Visit Norfolk serves such a diverse range of travelers, from leisure tourists to business professionals. And you mentioned the initiative that you started with highlighting chef-led restaurants. But some of these other sort of marketing strategies, how do you create those or develop those? Is it by looking in the surrounding regions, like you mentioned the Charleston festivals, sort of mimicking that and seeing, okay, well, they're getting a lot of tourism from this. Maybe this is something we can highlight in this area.
So water is huge, obviously. History is also huge. African American history, this is where the first African Americans landed in our region back in the 1600s. So that history exists. And in the future, we're going to do more with a regional collaboration on that. But the history, the water, recreation water is always something that people want to participate in. And,
Right.
I don't know if your question's asked about COVID, but during COVID, we took those locations and attractions that were outside that were
Sure.
just natural to be separated, and because people wanted to travel. And we knew that we are one gas tank away from 72 million people in the
Right.
mid-Atlantic. So we
Right.
don't have to advertise far. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Raleigh, Charlotte, that circle, if you will, allows us to target people that are looking for some place to go. Even in the heat of COVID, while we did drop our occupancy, we were, of the 25 markets reported by Smith Travel Research, we were the number one market for that whole summer of 2020. I
Wow.
mean, we're a relatively small market, Virginia Beach
Right.
and Norfolk, but we were the number one. We were the only market that went over 60% occupancy. Everybody else dropped into the 20s and the 30s. So
Right.
we survived a little bit better than most. Now, the hotels lost a lot of the workforce,
Staffing
like
was
everybody
a big
else,
issue. Sure.
but we did okay. And, it was the campaign was Together at Last. We partnered with Virginia Beach, and somebody who is staying here in Norfolk can go to the beach that's 20 minutes away. They can go to the Chesapeake Bay that's 20 minutes away, or they could go to Williamsburg and Jamestown, the historic sites that are
Right.
45 minutes away, but then come back to our town and
And stay. Right.
stay. Mhm.
This episode is brought to you by TravelPayments.com. Travel businesses have unique needs when it comes to credit card processing. From large average ticket sizes and tolerance for higher chargeback ratios to simple integrations with the most popular shopping cart systems, the travel industry specialists at TravelPayments.com have you covered. Unfortunately, many of the most popular credit card processors initially accept travel businesses, but without warning, freeze their merchant accounts and the thousands of dollars in them because these service providers don't understand or support the unique needs of travel industry business. Don't get stuck with one of the big guys who will freeze you out without a moment's notice. Instead, work with a travel industry specialist who will support your business every step of the way. Visit TravelPayments.com to get a free quote today.
Now, Norfolk is part of the 757 region, which 757 is the area code that encompasses Eastern Virginia, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Suffolk, all of those, I guess, counties or towns. Now, do you collaborate with those neighboring regions or neighboring cities to sort of come up with a marketing plan for tourism?
Sadly, no. I'm trying. The campaign that we did that was successful was with Virginia Beach, but everybody has their own budgets, and
Right.
Virginia Beaches is huge and Portsmouth is small, and we're kind of a mid-size. So I am trying to proposing a couple of ideas on the history side of things, the African American history, that is starting to get some interest from people, and city council and mayors are interested in how do we do this. So more to come on that. But
Good.
if we can do one and get it done, get it started and done well, I think we'll have more and more that are joint campaigns.
Good.
In fact, with the ARPA money coming from COVID, we were able to collect 5% of that money that everybody received. And it gave us, for the first time, at least some money to promote ourselves, even if it was designing a website and keeping it current.
Yeah, I mean, that's important. And you don't realize how much of budget and everything goes into those things that are just as important as anything else. Now, you've been involved in the launch of iconic hotels like the Cavalier Hotel. How do these types of accommodations contribute to the city's appeal as a destination for business or for tourism?
The company that I worked for when I opened the Main, the Hilton here in Norfolk in 2017, they then transferred me Well, actually, before that, they wanted to make sure that I could be a good general manager. So they had me work in the Hilton at Virginia Beach. So I did that for a year, then opened the Main, then went back to reopen the Cavalier. So, but what that did was allowed me to create some partnerships with Virginia Beach that I would not have normally
Right.
had. So the collaboration of that effort is there, and we're getting closer all the time. And we'll see, we'll see how that goes. But having worked in both cities, it has been beneficial for everybody. Outside of that, we meet on a regular basis, the tourism people. That's the Coastal Virginia Tourism Alliance. And we all work off the same airport. The Norfolk
Okay.
International Airport is ours as a region,
Right.
mid-size, very good airport. The new president CEO of the airport has some fabulous ideas of how to make it more efficient and a greater experience. He has hired us, Visit Norfolk, to be the information desk folks. So we'll help him with those people that come in. It's my staff that also goes out in a visitor mobile, if you will, a van, and we
Mhm.
do 100 events a year throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, promoting Norfolk and the region. So we have some
Interesting.
experience with information centers.
What trends do you see shaping the future of travel in Norfolk?
And that's also a great question, because I really believe that the traveler in today's data world can be easily divided by a solo traveler. It could be LGBTQ plus. It could be not interested in one more than the other, but those folks that are seeking destinations that have a sustainable philosophy. I think those destinations are going to be of more interest to the traveler. That, what are they doing for recycling? What are they doing for air? What are they doing for clean water? What are these cities doing to reduce their carbon footprint? And I really truly believe that when we start promoting what we're doing, and I'm looking forward to a meeting with our city manager, because it wasn't until this past week that it dawned on me that the city with the federal government is putting in a $1.3 billion seawall. The only city that has flooding worse than us is New Orleans. Here we are putting up whatever that seawall design ends up being. It is to protect our waterfront off
Right.
of the Elizabeth River. I think that we are starting to see traveler sentiment identify with at least an interest of what we're doing with this seawall, with this sea level rise, if you will. Now, how do I spin that to, because it's being sought as a positive to our city, to our destination? Now, how do I market that? How do I inform people of what we're doing relative to all of our, the Lafayette River, the Elizabeth River, the Chesapeake Bay, we touch all the time. The cruise lines that come in here, what are they doing to keep a more sustainable environment? And then the other thing that I've been working on in the future that I think is going to be important is accessibility. And last week we just clicked on a new landing page for those people that have some type of disability, even down to the language of the do's and the don'ts. It's not wheelchair bound, it's somebody who that's their mode of transportation, or whatever their impairment would be. How do we just recognize it as, that's part of their personality, but they still are a wonderful traveler. And typically people with accessible issues or challenges, they travel with one or two people. So imagine getting somebody to sail on the Rover at sunset for the first time. And is that tall ship, relatively easy for somebody to get on? How do we get them into a kayak and have them paddle through some of our waters? So I think those are markets that are coming, have started. I'm just now recognizing it with our team. Now, how do we make it more informative for somebody to come and know what to do? How do we convince the hotels that when you put up your towel sign that says, if you want to use your towel again, hang it on the
Right.
hook. If you don't, put it on the ground. And no matter what we do, the housekeepers still replenish all your with fresh towels. Well, that doesn't do much for the sustainability. I think in the
Right.
future, it's going to be important to follow through on those services that you're providing.
So, as someone who's been instrumental in making Norfolk a better place to live, work, and visit, what message or advice do you have for other cities focused on destination marketing and organizations looking to sort of follow in the footsteps of stuff that you have already done over these last few years?
I'm not sure which goes first, the advocacy of what we're doing, trying to convince your elected officials and the stakeholders
Right.
that this is a much broader market of traveler than we've ever anticipated or expected. That is important. I mean, without a doubt, that's important. And the
Sure.
sustainability is important as well. So how do we make sure that we are listening to those travelers, listening to that sentiment to do that? So to do that to other cities, I would encourage them to make sure that they're collecting that data. What is your traveler looking for? And then how do you tell your city council that, yes, we're all in favor of this seawall going up, but so are the travelers in seeking to come here. And then from an economic development standpoint, and this may be the more important of the two categories, is that traveler that's coming here because it represents them, represents their values, do they now live here? Do they say, hey, I really like visiting Norfolk, I'm going to come again? And then does that come again mean I'm going to come here to live? And then do employers, seeing that workforce is here, do they bring their businesses here? And then does the circle just keep going, the circle
Right.
of life, if you will, that starts
Right.
with the visit, but ends with an investment in your city. So I would encourage the message to other cities to be, look at this model. Funds will always get in the way. I can't do it because I don't have enough money, but there's
Right.
always a way to communicate to people. We have 4 different emails that we send out to various groups. We've partnered with various software companies that allow us to create a dashboard. And the dashboard for this conversation could be different than the dashboard that I present to city council or to my board. But it has those critical numbers, whatever those key performance initiatives, those KPIs that we get judged on. How do we put those on the dashboard? And I would encourage cities to advocate for what you do, recognize that there's information that you can share, and then, how do we get people to come live in our cities? At the end of the day, we want our schools to be successful, right? We want people to live in our environments that they are enjoying, and for the residents to understand the value of the visitor economy. I don't want us to get into a situation of over tourism,
Right.
and I don't like that word, but that's something that's happening around the world. So how do we manage it with our current residents? In 2025, Carnival will be coming into Norfolk every week, 52 weeks a year. So that's 4,000, 3,500 people on, 35 people off every week. Think about the traffic, think about the parking, think about the restaurants. I can't get into my favorite restaurant anymore because of those travelers. We can show how those travelers create value for your own taxes. If every household saves $1,500 annually on the money that's spent in our city, that's a good thing.
Right. It's sort of finding the balance of all of it.
Correct.
And that's a tough thing to do. You've definitely got your hands full with that. I have never been to Norfolk, but it sounds wonderful. And you have definitely influenced me to get there as soon as possible to come and check it out.
I haven't even talked about our festival, which are the number 1 attribute that our travelers tell us about. And the number 3 right now is the airport. What traveler says the airport's a good airport? That's why we got to go there.
That's just icing on the cake, that the airport is a bonus.
Isn't it, though?
Yes, it is.
Very proud of it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing so much about your lovely area and how much there is to do there. And I would be very interested to talk again in the future and to see, it sounds like a lot is changing rapidly. So I'd love to talk again and hear more about it in the future.
Well, I've enjoyed episode 15. Let's make it 20 and 25 and 30. And
yes, definitely.
I'm here for you.
Thank you so much, Kurt.
My pleasure.
To our listeners, please follow and subscribe to the TravelPreneur podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes, and we appreciate reviews. Thanks so much, Kurt. Take care.